from Matthew chapter 9, beginning with verse 9. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax collection station. And he said to him, "Follow me." And he got up and followed him. And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with Jesus and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when Jesus heard this, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician or a doctor, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Here's the gospel reading. Oh, sorry. Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm a disciple of Jesus. This is my abacus. I used to be a tax collector. I used to think life was about money. I grew up on a farm with my parents, but I had an older brother. And so the real future, as far as the farm, I knew he would be the one to inherit it. So he had his path laid out for him, and so that's how he was going to make his living. As for me, I could do the farm work, and I could continue to help him, but I was smarter than I was strong. And I found that I was pretty good with numbers. And I decided, I want to do more with my life than staying here and helping my brother farm the land. So I headed off to the nearest city called Capernaum. And I figured I'm going to go make something of myself. And I remember as I was leaving, my mom said, "May you be blessed and may you prosper." That was my goal, to go and prosper. So when I got to Capernaum, I started looking for a job, something that would give me a little bit more money. A lot of the folks there were fishermen because it's right there on the Sea of Galilee. And fishing was not my thing. I could not imagine spending my life dealing with boats and nets and slippery, slimy fish and having to gut them. And I just no, thank you. And I tried my hand at carpentry, and there were some folks selling things like that. And since I was good at numbers, I kind of was doing fine there. But I remember one day when it was time for me to go pay my taxes. I went to the tax collectors, and I noticed, these people are doing really well off. And it kind of clicked. If I want to make money, I should be around money. And so I started asking questions and found out how to become a tax collector. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with how the Roman Empire works, but the money pretty much flows up. The emperor kind of says, go collect taxes. And so he has this whole system. All across the whole known world, all around the Mediterranean, which we called our sea, there was a whole system of taxation. And every tax collector eventually would end up with his own little district there. And they kind of had some way that they guesstimated how much money should come from that district. So the tax collector's job was to collect enough taxes to keep the emperor happy. But I learned that anything you collect above that, you get to keep. I started quickly understanding why these people, these other tax collectors, were wearing really nice clothes and lived in really nice houses, and life was really seeming to work for them. And so I started collecting taxes. And initially I tried to be really fair. I really did. Because I was a good Jew. I'd been going to the synagogue every week on the Sabbath. And so when I saw somebody that seemed a little bit poor, I'd cut them a lot of slack. And I knew some of the folks had plenty of money, and so I'd lean on them a little bit more. But what I didn't expect is how much hatred I felt from the people. I was a Jew. These were my people. Boy, as soon as I crossed the line and started not hanging out with but participating in the Roman government and handling all that money, which was Roman money, then I became ritually unclean. And so I couldn't go to the synagogue anymore until I went through the rite of purification. And I tried that. But boy, the looks I got from the other people in the synagogue, like, what are you doing here? Because it wasn't just about handling dirty money, so to speak, but it was because they felt like I had betrayed them, that I was a traitor to Israel, because I was helping this occupying government, this occupying empire, helping them get the money away, to take the money from my fellow Jews. I mean, I knew that was part of it. But boy, day after day, the looks I got, the animosity, the hatred, the way people shunned me, people that I thought had become my friends now had nothing to do with me. And so I got pretty cynical. Like, okay, if you're going to treat me this way, guess what? Who cares about being fair? Clearly, it's every man for himself. And so I just looked for ways to get more and more money. I mean, my mother wanted me to prosper, and I started doing pretty well. And occasionally, folks would balk, or I'd find out there were people that hadn't come in to pay their taxes. So I just took along a couple of my Roman soldier friends to go, and when I showed up at their door, they ponied the money really fast, because you just do not cross the Roman army. You just don't. Now, it wasn't lost on me either that the money we were collecting, that I was collecting, that was the money that was paying for these Roman soldiers to be here, kind of hovering over us and enforcing Roman law and making us do what they wanted. But hey, I was getting mine. And money was good. Money was very, very good. And when I think back to that time, it's almost like I just saw people walking around and it just occurred like dollar signs. It's like, oh, there's somebody else I'm going to get money from. There's somebody else I'm going to get money from. And so I really started living for getting more and more and more money. But you know, the only people I could really hang around with were my fellow tax collectors. Because all the Jewish folk didn't want to hang around me because I was a traitor. And the Romans knew I wasn't really a Roman. I was one of those troublemaking Jews. So it's kind of on that boundary in between where I didn't fit in either place. So the only other people that would be my friends were the other tax collectors or other folks that were in that same situation. Jews who were, for some reason, considered unclean or not right. They used to call us a bunch of sinners. So we'd get together and the sinners would eat dinner. And we just kind of claim that title. It's like, okay, maybe we're sinning, but boy, we're rich. And then this guy showed up. They called him a rabbi. And you couldn't help but notice him because all of a sudden there's this guy and there were crowds following him. The soldiers were really concerned because they don't like people gathering and getting together because crowds are problematic for them. And so the soldiers were talking about him, plus all the other tax collectors were just trying to figure out who this guy was. I found out he was a rabbi and started hearing stories about how he was healing people. and how he was, they kept talking about these words of wisdom. It's like when he spoke, it was like God speaking. And there were a few times where he was talking with some folks, I was in earshot. Of course, they wouldn't, I didn't dare get close to him, but I could hear. And he started talking about this other kingdom, another realm, not the Roman Empire, but this realm or this reign of God. And he used words like forgiveness and caring for others, being kind and compassionate, looking for ways to serve others instead of yourself. And I remember thinking, whoa, that's a different way of living life. And as I kind of pondered those words, they kept sticking because I knew I was out for me. I was. I thought that was the game to play. That's the game it seemed like the whole Roman Empire was playing. Everybody trying to get more and more and more for themselves. And the more you got, then the more power you had, the more prestige, the better life worked. But Jesus talked about a different kind of kingdom that was really about love and life. So it got me thinking as I kept taking money from my Jewish friends. And then one day he was nearby, and it's kind of toward the end of the day. We're about to close up shop. And all of a sudden, I see him walking, and he comes walking toward me at my booth. He just looked at me in the eyes and said, "Follow me." In my mind, I go, what I heard was, follow me and not money. Follow me and not money. I don't know what happened, but I knew that it was time for me to get rid of the life I'd been living. So I got up and followed him. And my other tax collector friends were going, what is going on here? And then Jesus asked me, it's like, I'm going to eat at your house tonight. I mean, fortunately, because I've been doing this for a while, I had a pretty nice house. I go, can I bring my friends? He said, sure. So I went to my house, we'd scrambled to get some food together, and there he was. This rabbi sent with a bunch of us tax collectors. It was amazing. And there wasn't a hint of judgment. There wasn't a hint of condemnation. It's like it wasn't the animosity and hatred and how dare you be doing this. But it was just, I'm glad to be here. Welcome. It was peaceful. It was loving. It was like a different reality. At some point when we're eating there, through the windows, I could hear the Pharisees. They seemed like they were always kind of hovering, kind of watching this guy. I could hear them through the window. They rather loudly were talking to each other. This guy's eating with sinners and tax collectors. And of course, they meant for Jesus to hear it. And he said, I did not come for those who are well, but for those who are sick. Because the people who are well don't need a doctor, don't need a physician. But people who are sick do. And I knew he was talking about me. Yeah, my body was fine. Was my mind fine? I don't know. I'd certainly been focused on money for so long and on what I wanted. So my healing wasn't about anything physical. It was about waking up to the real meaning of life. In that moment and in the days following and the years following when I followed Jesus, I realized, wow, it's almost like I'd just been addicted to chasing money. I was addicted to looking out for myself. I was addicted to not caring for others. And Jesus woke me up. He said, follow me and not money. At least that's how I heard it. Once I started following Jesus, then life opened up. And even though, I'd been this tax collector, the other disciples, they just welcomed me. It's like Jesus was teaching people just how to be open and accepting, forgiving, loving, in service to the world. And that's when my life began. And I've been following Jesus ever since. I carry this around with me. I mean, occasionally I have a use for it, and we'll get some money and need to figure things out. But the real reason I carry my abacus is because it reminds me of how small and self-centered my life had been. How really I was dead. But Jesus' simple words, Jesus' pure love and invitation woke me up to life. And ever since, I've been committed to telling other people about the God that I know in Jesus, about this God who wants everyone to know that they're loved, no matter what kind of things they've done, no matter what kind of things they are doing. But there's always the possibility to repent, to be forgiven, to change your way, and to wake up to life. Of course, I invite you to wake up to life and follow Jesus. Amen.